So shouldn't we be talking about the Nord Stream since that's the biggest story of the century? And it's just kind of funny because Iraq, wrong. Syria, wrong. Russiagate, really wrong. Okay, I mean, the list goes on and on. While Julian Assange rots in prison, all of you got, fat checks because he's in jail for doing your job. Say something about this bombing. We blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Listen, don't stand there while there are people rotting in prison. Nobody said anything about Uhuru, right? The socialists who are in jail for being critical of this war. God damn it.
Behind the scenes of the United States lies a shadowy and unsettling military-industrial complex, which has been accused of being one of the most corrupt and powerful entities in the world. It's a network of individuals and institutions involved in the production of weapons and military technologies, with strong ties between the military, political, and corporate spheres. A potential for disaster lurks within this complex, as its misplaced power it holds has been seen time and time again, with its war on terror, communism, and other ill-defined labels, which have included countries such as Libya, Vietnam, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, Australia, Colombia, Japan, Mongolia, New Zealand, Pakistan, and even South Korea, among others. Join me as we delve deeper into the shadowy world of the United States military complex, where power and corruption intertwine in a dangerous game. Let's uncover the truth behind the countless interventions, wars, and covert operations that have shaped the course of history. And let's not forget the countless lives lost and shattered in the process. As always, your support is much needed. Like and subscribe to stay updated on our journey towards revealing the hidden truths of the military-industrial complex. Together we can shed light on this complex and work towards a more just and peaceful world. The term military-industrial complex was first used publicly by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in his farewell address to the nation on January 17th of 1961.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
The military-industrial complex of the United States was tailored to develop and produce military technologies equal to the existential threat perceived to be posed by the Soviet Union during the Cold War. The complex is an informal yet robust relationship between the military and industry, which pursued and won a qualitative, technological arms race, but exacted a high price in waste, fraud, and abuse. The military-industrial complex is a combination of the U.S. Armed Forces, its arms industry, and associated political and commercial interests that grew rapidly in scale and influence in the wake of World War II and throughout the Cold War to the present day. Following World War II, the United States military rose to an unparalleled level of global dominance, the military spending far surpassing that of other nations, reaching 41% of global military expenditures and 2011. The complex in the US has played a pivotal role in this growth, as civilian companies have benefited from innovations originating in the complex, and vice versa. This complex has expanded in size due to the perceived necessity for significant investments in the latest military technologies. Moreover, many regions have become dependent on the defense industry for employment opportunities and tax revenue. Consequently, there is significant opposition to any proposal to drastically reduce military spending, as this would result in the loss of jobs for many Americans working in defense manufacturing plants throughout the country. Shadows of the military-industrial complex lies a labyrinth world of power and secrecy. The military services and their unparalleled decision-making control over multi-billion-dollar weapon systems are only the tip of the iceberg. The defense industry's massive corporations, fueled by lucrative government contracts, form another essential piece of the puzzle. And behind the curtain, government leaders approve massive military budgets, potentially manipulated by a cabal of powerful groups, military, political, and corporate, who profit from conflict and influence US foreign policy. Elites lurk in the shadows, including armed companies like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop, whose reach extends far beyond the battlefield. But perhaps most mysterious of them all is DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, an independent research and development agency of the United States Department of Defense. DARPA's mission is to invest in breakthrough technologies for national security, and it compromises a small group of government employees overseeing hundreds of research and development programs. DARPA has a track record of developing groundbreaking technologies, including the internet, GPS, and stealth technology. The agency's contribution to national security have been seminal, and its research and development programs continue to impact the world, whether for good or bad. However, whispers suggest that DARPA's work may also have unsettling implications, such as the development of smart, self-guided bullets, cyborg insects, and advanced surveillance technologies. DARPA's direct line to senior Department of Defense management only adds to the sense of mystery surrounding this powerful agency. The military-industrial complex is a massive industry in the US and is often accused of being one of the most corrupt. The Inspector General offices of Iraq and Afghanistan report billions of dollars lost to waste and fraud in those countries. William Hartung, director of the Center of International Policy Arms and Security Project, sheds light on similar stories that highlight the depth and waste permeating the system. The excess of usable military equipment is relative to any possible need. He even explains how authorities and contractors are recklessly destroying perfectly useful items. What's even more insane is the fact that the military-industrial complex cannot even pass a full audit. Yes, you heard that right. The United States government has audited its military-industrial complex several times, yet has never passed a full audit. The first department-wide audit of the Defense Department in 2018 was unable to provide a clean opinion on the financial statements of the Defense Department, covering $2.7 trillion in assets and $2.6 trillion in liabilities. The Pentagon's size and complexity make it more difficult to audit, with the auditing process requiring 24 standalone audits, which are performed by independent public accounting firms and the Department of Defense. But honestly, let's not kid ourselves here. There is absolutely no excuse for the United States government not being able to audit its Defense Department. Also, the Pentagon has been criticized for its inability to pass an audit, and reports have uncovered billions of dollars in waste and fraud within the military-industrial complex. And to put a little more salt on the wound, take a listen to a 6-minute clip of Jon Stewart's hour-long interview with the Defense Deputy Secretary on the defense budget of the United States, attempting to explain this situation to us.
Do you feel like these are unfair questions of somebody within a department of that size and scope? Do you feel that it's somewhat unfair?
I think you have a particular thing you really want to talk about and you're asking me other questions, but I don't think it's unfair to ask me about the audit. It's absolutely the case that the United States military should be able to pass an audit, and we've got to be on that pathway to get there.
But don't you think that does speak to the larger point that we're trying to get at, which is good journalism uncovers corruption? And
okay, I mean, good journalism does uncover corruption, but I'm not sure these two things are linked. An audit is not.
But they are.
Okay, so you need to explain to me, do you understand what an audit does and the degree to which it is linked to the question that you're asking?
I believe so.
Okay, go ahead. Give me your explanation.
No, I don't mind learning. So what I would suggest is that the audit that they have in the military doesn't really look at whether or not there's efficacy. It's just whether they got delivered the thing that they ordered. And
that is any audit. That is any audit. That is true.
But generally, those audits aren't $400 billion for Raytheon and $1.7 trillion for a plane that doesn't seem to be doing. Like, there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose these pieces.
Then please educate me on
sure.
What
so an audit is
difference.
Exactly what you just described,
Yes.
which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit, or the fact that the DoD has not passed an audit, is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is completely false right there.
So what is
now
it
is the question of, it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where. That is not the same as saying we can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse has occurred.
So in my world,
yeah,
that's waste.
How is that waste?
If I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, I mean, this is not, look, I'm not saying this is on you and that you caused this, but I think it's a tough argument to
I'm pretty
make
sure
that
I didn't cause it.
an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went, like, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for. And especially when they see food insecurity on military bases, and they see...
You want to talk about that? Because that's a good... we should be talking... I mean,
well,
I'm trying to understand where you're trying to go, other than the dollars, which really bother you.
I think it doesn't really bother me. I think it's all connected.
Okay.
I think
tell me that story. Tell me how you're thinking about that.
When I see a State Department get a certain amount of money and a military budget be 10 times that, and I see a struggle within government to get people like more basic services, and then that department that got that, I mean, we got out of 20 years of war and the Pentagon got a $50 billion raise. Like, that's shocking to me. Now, I may not understand exactly the ins and outs and the incredible magic of an audit, but I'm a human being who lives on the earth and can't figure out how $850 billion to a department means that the rank and file still have to be on food stamps. Like, to me, that's fucking corruption. I'm sorry. And if that blows your mind, and if you think like that's like a crazy agenda for me to have, I really think that that's institutional thinking, and that it's not looking at the day-to-day reality of the people that you call the greatest fighting force in the world. So I get back to this idea of like, I'm not looking to pick a fight with you, but I am surprised at that the reaction to these questions are, you don't know what an audit is, bucko. Like, that's just weird to me.
Okay.
Throughout its history, the United States has been involved in numerous foreign interventions, including many smaller military operations and interventions. These have included the Bay of Pigs invasion, the invasion of Grenada, and the intervention of Somalia. The United States has also been involved in many proxy wars, such as the Soviet-Afghan War, the Syrian Civil War, and in addition, the United States has been involved in many covert operations and intelligence gathering activities, some of which have been highly controversial. The United States has engaged in nearly 400 military interventions between 1776 and 2019, with half of these operations occurring since 1950 and over 25% occurring in the Western Hemisphere. Following the tragic attacks of the Twin Towers on 9/11, the United States launched its War on Terror. However, prior to the Iraq War, the George W. Bush's administration spread lies, claiming that Iraq posed an imminent threat to the United States and its allies. The administration accused Iraq of developing weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons, and having ties to al-Qaeda. These assertions were used to drum up support for the war domestically and internationally. Sadly, after the invasion of Iraq, no weapons of mass destruction were found, and hundreds of thousands of innocent lives were lost. It later emerged that the intelligence used to justify the war was flawed and manipulated. Who would have thought? And the Bush administration had manipulated the available information to make a case for the war. At present, we are funneling hundreds of billions of dollars, advanced weaponry, and cutting-edge technology to Ukraine, a nation with which we have minimal ties and was recently regarded as the most corrupt European country. The intention is to fight a proxy war against Russia, and if you don't believe me, then just listen to Joe Biden himself on February 7th, 2022, stating that America would get rid of the Nord Stream pipeline 2 if Russia invaded Ukraine.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
Then just a couple of months later, on September 26, 2022, like clockwork, lo and behold, the Nord Stream Pipeline 2 was bombed mysteriously. Despite this, there are ongoing attempts to garner public support in the United States for a prospective conflict in China over Taiwan, as if our country doesn't have enough issues to deal with already. The extent of the American military presence outside the United States is shrouded in secrecy, with not all data being published by the Pentagon. What is known, however, is that the US operates approximately 750 military bases in at least 80 countries, a figure that may be higher given the incomplete information. This makes the US the largest operator of military bases abroad, with 38 named bases in various locations. For instance, Japan is home to 120 American military bases, Germany 119, and South Korea 73, with other countries such as the UK, France, Turkey, Russia, China, Iran, Iraq, India, Italy, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates also hosting US bases. Comparatively, the United Kingdom has 145 bases, Russia has about 36 bases, and China only has just 5 military bases of their own. It is worth noting that the US has 3 times the amount of bases as all other countries combined, but yet countries like Russia and China are portrayed as a massive threat to America's national security. Although the number of American military ships and aircraft outside the US is not readily available, the Conflict Management and Peace Science Journal revealed that the US had roughly 173,000 troops deployed in 159 countries in 2020. The issue of US foreign policy and its impact is not well understood by Americans, who are encouraged by corporate media-sponsored military-industrial complex to cheer on saber-rattling and warmongering. Americans right now are being provoked to engage in a nuclear war with other superpowers, even though they do not understand the extent of their own government's corruption. To cap all of this off, take a listen to Jimmy Dore speak about this situation on Tucker Carlson's show, which aired live on Fox News. You really can't explain it more honestly than Jimmy Dore did that night.
What I think it means is that the United States is trying to provoke and saber-rattle with another nuclear power, right? This is what we were supposed to be afraid of was going to happen with Donald Trump, right? We couldn't have, he's a crazy man who's going to have his finger on the nuclear button, and now we have Demented Joe, who is saber-rattling with 2 nuclear powers, and they get the corporate media sponsored by the military-industrial complex to get Americans to cheer it on. And why do Americans cheer it on? Because they have no idea what's actually happening with their foreign policy, and what's worse is they have no idea that they have no idea that they don't have any idea what's happening with their foreign policy. We have 400 military bases surrounding China since the Korean War. Do we really think that China is getting ready to invade the United States? Because I tell you, they're not. They make everything we use in the United States. Why? Because the same people who want this war are the same people who took the good jobs that are manufacturing jobs in America, turned them into low-paying, crappy jobs, and then shipped them to China. And then we get angry at them for the system that we set up. If they're so corrupt, because that's the thing, Americans have no idea how corrupt their government is. They think our government's just regular corrupt, like, oh, Trump gave his son a job, or Biden gave his kid a no-show job in the Ukraine war. That's not, the whole thing is corrupt. The $800 billion military budget is $800 billion of corruption. Why do we have to have 900 military bases around? We're the ones provoking this war, just like we provoked the war in Ukraine. We are now provoking a war with China. And who benefits? I'll tell you right now, your enemy is not China. Your enemy is not Russia. Your enemy is the military-industrial complex, which has been fleecing this country to the tunes of hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. How many times are we going to have a defense secretary say, hey, we can't account for $2 trillion in the Pentagon again? That, like, which has happened twice now in my lifetime. So again, people are being, the war machine cannot be stopped. Who's running this country? The war machine. It certainly isn't Joe Biden making these decisions. I would like to know who is making the decisions. And I just want to remind everybody, the United States is the world's terrorist. We just set the Middle East on fire in the last 20 years, and now we're doing a proxy war in Ukraine, which we provoked, NATO provoked, and it was just admitted that we provoked it by the former Prime Minister of Germany. And now we're trying to saber rattle with China, and they're predicting a war. Again, China's not going to invade us. China's not our enemy. We might have an economic war. That's what these are. These are economic wars. These are wars in Ukraine. It's about liquefied natural gas and making sure Germany and Russia never come together, because we fear Russia's natural resources and manpower, and we fear them getting together with Germany with their technology and their capital. And so that's why we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. That's why we're doing the Ukraine war. This is all about hegemony, imperialism, and economics. And if there's a Marine somewhere, it's there because they're about to steal some natural resources from another country. As everybody's screaming about what a bad guy Putin is for invading Ukraine, the United States is currently occupying a third of Syria. And which third is that? It's the third that has the oil. And how do I know we're there to steal their oil? Because the President of the United States said so.
We're not even benefiting economically. Of course, that's the rub. Jimmy Dore, appreciate it. Thank you.
The information presented thus far only scratches the surface of the labyrinth military-industrial complex of the United States. This network of individuals and institutions involved in the production of weapons and military technologies operates with powerful ties between the military, political, and corporate spheres. The US military has intervened in foreign conflicts and waged proxy wars through the complex, some of which have been shrouded in controversy. This massive complex spans the globe, boasting military bases in dozens of nations across all continents. However, the true nature of this complex lies deeper and darker than what is visible on the surface. The complex's misplaced power has been exposed time and time again, as it's waged wars loosely defined enemies such as communism and terrorism. The consequences of these conflicts have been devastating, resulting in countless lives lost and shattered. It is essential to bring the military-industrial complex to light and work towards creating a just and peaceful world. An alert and knowledgeable citizenry can hold the complex accountable and ensure that the massive industrial and military machinery of defense meshes with our peaceful methods and goals. Only then can security, liberty truly prosper together. But the path to achieving this goal is a treacherous one, and one must proceed with caution, for the shadowy and mysterious depths of the military-industrial complex are not to be taken lightly. And as always, keep your eyes opened.